podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Okay, Tom, well, that was quite frustrating, wasn't it? Although I suppose it has a nice sort of narrative with Brighton scoring in the 98th minute with a penalty to win the game. Where have we seen that before?
I know. I felt like when David Brent gets told he first gets sacked and then later that day he gets told by the people who give him that £250 to do a 15-minute speaking slot that he's not going to be doing it anymore. And then he just goes, oh, fucking hell. That's literally how I felt.
Yeah.
Like when I saw Shaw had stupidly put his hand up and just flicked it away volleyball style away from Lewis Dunk's head.
Oh, man, what was he doing? I suppose we might as well get to the end first, but just bonkers. I mean, I guess your arms come up when you jump, and it's just so weird.
I'm surprised he didn't get sent off as well. Like, he'd obviously just been booked a minute before. Yeah. I almost feel like, I wonder if he'd kind of lost his head in that moment because he was really having a go at the Paraguayan lad whose name escapes me like it did on the last show when we spoke about him. Enciso, yeah, he was marvellous tonight. He Shaw really lost it at him, and then obviously it was only about 2 minutes later that I don't know. You feel I don't. It's hard to explain the unexplainable like that. Like what is he doing? It's not like he just happened to jump up and he's got pushed and he's kind of appealing. It looks like he deliberately flicks it away from Lewis Dunk's head, which is just inexcusable. What are you doing?
Which is mental because it's basically on the edge of the box. I mean,
yeah.
How are you gonna? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's going to say it. I haven't seen any interviews afterwards. I'm sure he's going to say it was accidental. He didn't mean to do it. I mean, clearly it's a penalty because the hand is in an unnatural position. So no arguments there. But yeah, it's just bonkers.
I was just looking at it as well. I was like, are we going to maybe see Lewis Dunk's climbing on him? Is there going to be an excuse here which maybe kind of explains it, or maybe lets Shaw off the hook here and doesn't give the pen? But there was just nothing. It's but yeah, there's a lot to speak about in this game. But just that at the end, we're talking about the game 5 or 6 minutes after it's finished here. So it's very raw, very raw.
Yeah, I mean, deeply frustrating. In a sense, it was coming because Brighton were superior in that second half. I mean, United created a lot of chances in the first half. We can get into that, but in the second half, really not so much. And Brighton's control of the game became stronger. It's definitely a pattern. United being poor away from home, Casemiro getting overwhelmed. I mean, he was nearly sent off as well. I would say he was right on the edge. Made a couple of extremely risky wrong foot challenges after he'd had that booking as well, and yeah.
Feels like the point at the moment. Are you trying to miss games?
Yeah, I know.
What's going on?
Earlier in the season, we were talking about Casemiro getting away with it because he's got a nice face and he looks so cherub-like, but not anymore. No, they've cottoned on to him.
Yeah,
I mean, but it's part of a pattern, isn't it? United don't seem to have the numbers in midfield away from home and get dominated, and over and over again. I mean, our record at home this season is outstanding, and away from home, I meant to look it up, but I bet we're in the bottom half of the table for away form this season, and it's clearly Ten Hag is going to have to find a new midfield mix to solve that problem, and he tried to do it, bringing Fred in, I guess, for the sort of energy for Eriksen, who's on the bench. Not sure that it worked. Real clearly didn't. Brighton had 60% possession, and where we were dangerous in that first half, in the transitional moments, it broke down in the really important moments, of course, but we just really weren't in the second half, and just Anyway, there's all to say that we lost with a penalty, with a stupid moment, but it could have been anything before that, really. couldn't it?
It really could. I feel like almost we were quite similar. I think both teams in this game. Like it was the final third that lacked for both teams. Like not that we had as many chances and as many openings as Brighton had throughout the 90 minutes, but we did have quite a few, and it was just like the last ball, the last touch, the last pass, the last shot that just wasn't right for us, especially in the first half. Like Steele made a couple of really good saves from Martial and Rashford, but then as the second half wore on, it was almost like typical Brighton where they were last season, where they just got into the final third over and over again and just couldn't score. But it was really concerning just how easily they were getting in. Like Matoma was very poor in the final third, but the amount of times that he got in, it was really ridiculous. And if he had any kind of left foot, it had just blasted them in every single time. Like it was really, you don't usually see a defender like Wan-Bissaka or any defender just show someone onto their left foot so much like that, when literally if he had a left foot, he could have just, it was clearly the plan to do that. But like if he just had a left foot, he could just smash that in like almost every single time. It was really weird watching it because you just like, just hit it with your left, just hit it with your left. But like he was trying to do these outside of the right foot. But like the amount of times where they just kept getting in and in, and like you said about Casemiro, it's quite concerning actually, his form at the moment. I really find it's almost like dropped off a cliff.
He was okay at the weekend, but clearly since he's come back, it's been really poor, hasn't it? And I just think he gets overwhelmed.
Yeah. A game like today as well, it's really showcased. He looked a bit like an old man tonight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, earlier in the season, when he first joined, I think I expressed my concern about his physicality because it was clearly diminishing at Real Madrid. I mean, I wondered whether part of that was just because the players around him, Kroos and Modric, are also getting older, and this was just the Real Madrid midfield getting older, and they'd become more of a defensive and transitional team as a result. And he came to United. Obviously, he's kind of started the season late and a bit slow, took a little bit of time to get going, and then he had that middle part of the season where he was really good, and United's form was pretty good, and it all seemed to click together. I just don't think he's like a pure aggressive defensive midfielder who can do it on his own anymore. If he was like Moises Caicedo's age, 10 years younger, then and had that kind of physicality, or Conte when he was 25 or whatever, but now it's not quite. The physicality's dropped off a bit. It is a real concern because you look at all the data on players, and this should be his one good season of this contract. Everything else is going to get worse, and you have to adjust. And it's not that it doesn't mean. And I'm not saying he's going to be crap now, and he won't be able to play for United anymore. You just have to build around him slightly differently. Much in the same way, if United spend money on Kane this summer, a little bit of that zip has gone. Not that he ever had loads of zip, but it's definitely gone. They would have to build super fast players around him in order to get something out of him. And I think with Casemiro, you've got to think about the blend of midfield if you want to get the most out of him. And probably a lot of the time he has Eriksen alongside him, who's more of a controller. If you keep the ball, it's okay. That's why at home, United's record is much better. If you don't have the ball, and you're playing transition, it breaks down, and then they're playing in transition, I've got a real problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Casemiro gets exposed. And around him, you have to have someone who's a bit more physical, but can keep the ball. And we've got McTominay and Fred. Obviously, McTominay didn't play today, but Fred today. But either of them can't keep the ball.
Yeah.
And so it puts United under pressure again.
And that was the last 20, 30 minutes of this game that we were, every single time we attacked, we gave the ball. It felt like we gave the ball away within about 3 or 4 passes. And usually it broke down when we tried to play the long ball. We almost like saw Rashford that he might be able to get in behind every single time, and we just kept playing that long ball, and we just kept getting picked out by their 2 massive defenders who, again, were brilliant tonight. Like Lewis Dunk is has been a revelation at Brighton. I can't believe how damn good he is. Like on the ball, he's excellent.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
So many of their attacks just come from his pass. It's usually just a pass through the lines, but there was another one where he played it in behind Wan-Bissaka to Matoma. Like we couldn't deal with that, especially like in the second half, and Webster coming out from defence, and Ciso, the way that he was like just twinkling through, especially Casemiro. There was one time I think it was in Ciso where he glided across the pitch, and you see Casemiro sliding to block a shot, and he's not even had the shot. Like, and Casemiro's just like sat on the floor. And that last 20 minutes was just, we were just all over the place. Like I say, going forward, we couldn't keep the ball, but our shape was just, we were just so ragged. And it's been like this, I feel like, in a few games, a lot of games since the World Cup. The last 20 minutes, we look all over the place, even against Villa at the weekend. Like the last 10 minutes, we should have been way out of sight, but we're just letting teams, I don't know, it's almost like a fitness thing. And I guess like with Casemiro, that makes sense.
I think they're knackered.
Yeah.
56 games so far this season, and I mean it's brutal. I think they're knackered, and the injuries have caught up with some players. And Casemiro, Eriksen, not young anymore. I mean, I'm sure it's a factor, and I'm sure it's part of the reason why United do die in the second half and late in games, and the shape goes a little bit because he's now using about Weghorst to try and retain possession in the last part of the game, and it doesn't really work.
And when you have no control over the game like we did, that it becomes even worse, where as soon as almost we're getting into their half, we're giving the ball away. Like it just makes you so ragged and makes you so tired, and just doesn't give you defense a breathing moment, doesn't give you a defensive midfielder who's aging a moment. And it didn't feel inevitable that they would score today, but like even after the actual penalty, like they had a couple of shots where we were very lucky to get away with, and then obviously the VAR came in after the two shots and basically at full time. It didn't feel like it was inevitable that Brighton would score, but they would by far the more likely, and it was just it felt like it was coming, really.
Well, I forget the Brighton attacker. Was it Solly March who had the swerving shot at the end that Dave tipped around? Good save. Mm-hmm. I mean, and others as well. I mean, for sure, they in that second half especially, they turned their possession into opportunities. I'm less concerned about Brighton. I mean, they're not a reinvention of Brazil '92. They're just a possession-based side that they're pretty good defensively, not quite good enough to really push up further up the table, but way better than they should be based on their budget, which is about £200 million a year less than ours. Wage budget, that is. So I'm less concerned about them than I am about United and kind of some of the structural problems that Ten Hag is constantly trying to fit the square peg in the round hole. Constantly. He's always having a compromise. Every manager since Fergie, even Fergie, have to compromise because we've never had the perfect balance of squad. And I'm not going to get all doom and gloom because it's just one defeat. Probably United will get enough points. I mean, need 9 from 12.
It's getting close, though, isn't it?
It's really too squeaky. I mean, Liverpool have been terrible all season, but they've got 5 winnable games.
And they keep winning. They're not playing well, but they keep getting over the line, don't they?
That's right. And if they don't play well, all that they need to do is Klopp needs to scream about referees and they get a penalty. It's just fucking nailed on every time.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, this defeat has made this harder. It's the hardest game we've got left.
Yeah.
Right. We got Bournemouth, who are in a mess at the moment. We've got Chelsea, who are in a mess at the moment. Who else we got? Wolves, who. Not so good. I mean, Brighton absolutely annihilated them the other day. So it's 3 from 12 should be doable, but it's way closer than we'd like, of course. And it is the difference between a good season and a bad season. If United don't get in the Champions League, the impact on the club is significant. But it's not just the money. That's slightly... The money problem is slightly solved by the discount that players have to take, although second season outside the Champions League is a really big hit. But it's also about status and attractiveness and development of the club and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really important.
It'll feel like a disaster to a lot of the players and to the fan base, and we will be absolutely ridiculed if we don't end up in the top 4, considering where we've basically been there the whole year. It's looked easy at times, and everyone's been laughing at Liverpool the whole season because of how bad they are. If we don't get into the top 4, it'll feel like a disaster. It won't be a disaster, but it'll feel like one. And like you say, in terms of attractiveness, which is so crucial, to be able to sell to players who are thinking about coming to United that we are a club that's on the up under Ten Hag. We are a team that's rebuilding. We're going to be back to our best. Can you sell that as well if in 3 or 4 months, 2 months, we blow a 9-10 point lead or whatever it is ahead of the top 4 to fall out of there? You're not in the Champions League again. It's like, and then also someone like Harry Kane. Like, why would Harry Kane join United? What, like, we finished?
He wouldn't.
We finished 1 point at one place above Tottenham and don't end up in the top 4. Like, it wouldn't be a disaster, but it would really feel like one if we don't end up in the top 4. It'd be so embarrassing.
I'm not sure it's not a disaster. I mean, obviously the club will survive not being in the Champions League. Clearly can do, but financially, the difference between... I mean, United made about 70 million out of the Champions League, and we got knocked out in the first knockout round last time we were in it. You win your Europa League, and the best you're going to do is about 25 or something. I mean, in prize money, that is, and broadcast. Ticket sales are different as well. It has a real impact on the season. Like, getting the later stages of the Champions League's worth another 50 million. United's FFP restricted budget this summer will be about 100 million. That once sounded like a lot, now it doesn't. And that's one really top-class player, isn't it? It's not enough to buy Jude Bellingham, for example. Not that it looks very much like he might be heading to Real Madrid now, but it really does impact on the whole club's sort of progression and growth, whether or not a sale goes through or not. So it's anyway, and the whole point you're making about it being embarrassing and stuff, and it would. It's not that I blame Ten Hag. I do think it's just the weight of number of games have really impacted United, and Ten Hag is trying to work his way around it. And fortunately, he didn't rotate as much as he should have earlier in the season, and now he's having to do it now when it's really crucial.
Yeah, it's almost like his ambitions also come back to bite us a little bit as well. That the fact that we really went for it in 4 competitions and like you say, barely rotating in any of them. Yeah, we've won the League Cup and we're in the FA Cup final as well. But like, if we don't end up in the top 4, like you could easily say, why have we gone for it in all 4 competitions? Like, was there any need to try and play our best team in pretty much every Europa League game that we've had? Was that necessary this year when top 4 is the main ambition? I'm not sure I agree with that statement, but it's definitely something that can be labelled at him, and it's a talking point for sure. Like, and there's going to be a lot of questions regarding the way that he's managed the team this season. Like, obviously there's so many positives, but and we're obviously talking very hypothetically, but here there's 5 games left, and we're still big favourites to end up in the top 4. But it's just, you just look at Liverpool and they keep winning, and it makes you fearful, especially if you're a pessimist like me.
Yeah, I'll look at the 538 predictions model. I don't think they'll have updated it from tonight's game yet, but I think last time I looked, United was something like 82% on for the Champions League, and I'm sure that's dropped quite a lot. The prediction models start to fail at this time of year, and it looks way more random because of the number of games to go than say mid-season, where you've got a lot of data and a lot to come, and you can predict it. But when it gets towards the end of the season, it starts to look very random. But anyway, I think long rambly way of saying I think United's chances have dropped quite a lot from this defeat, or it just means the margin of error now is quite small.
And I think going into this game, like I don't think I was alone in thinking that we wouldn't win. I didn't think we'd win tonight. I thought we'd actually lose, and I didn't think we'd play as well as we did tonight, actually, especially in that first half.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying that, isn't it? That actually, for a lot of the game, United played the first half. United played pretty well, and the game plan of hitting Brighton in the transitional moments worked really well.
Yeah, and I think our press was pretty good as well. Like I know you said,
Fred broke down in the second half.
Yeah, and Fred definitely didn't work in the second half, but I thought he did pretty well in the first half, and we did play some lovely football. And you think if Rashford's effort sneaks in at the near post past Steele, or Martial's effort gets through Steele's legs, it's obviously it's a completely different game, and we're usually quite good when we go 1-0 up. Though obviously we've had a couple of occasions where we've not been good very recently, but. So, yeah, I guess there's positives to take from that. Like, Brighton are a very, very good team. Obviously, they beat us at our place this season, and they've been very, very good at home as well. But, yeah, it's just kind of when you look at the big picture and you think of some of the games that we've got, like, they are quite easy on paper, and we've been excellent at home all year. It's just those away games, and you like, if we just drop points in one of them and we go into that last game needing to win, and Liverpool can catch us. Oh my God. I don't want the stress. I think that's why I'm so annoyed. I don't want the stress of it all. Thank you. It seemed like at one point it was nice and serene. We were like going to slide into there nice and easy.
Yeah.
Sail on in. And now it's like, oh, come on. Don't need this.
So we got West Ham away next. That's the weekend. And no midweek game, which desperately need. So, and then Wolves at home, that should be a banker. Bournemouth away, it's got to be a banker. Chelsea at home, I mean, don't know whether you saw their game against Arsenal, but they were pathetic.
They are horrendous.
And they're absolute, total horrendous mess. So clearly they're going to beat us. And then Fulham at home for the last game. I mean, they're all winnable games for United. I mean, there's no lack of motivation. It's just they're broken, they're knackered, and the schedule has been horrendous. But they do have a midweek off between West Ham and Wolves, and a midweek off between Wolves and Bournemouth, and then a midweek off before the FA Cup.
And have West Ham got their Europa Conference League game on Thursday? So a week today, I think their Europa League Conference League is the game after they play United. So
semi-final. So I wonder whether they'll play a weekend team.
Yeah, because they're kind of out of the relegation fight now, aren't they? After a couple of decent results. So you'd hope that their eyes are on that. Rice is out at the weekend as well. So
right,
but they've obviously drew to Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. I know Arsenal were kind of in that weird, like, oh, we've completely lost ourselves moment, but.
Yeah,
that they just have potential to cause an upset against us. But yeah, hopefully their eyes are on Europe. And like I say, Rice is out, so that's a huge loss. And they're not a very good side, clearly, because they're
they're not. I mean, they got completely Haalanded at the weekend, didn't they, against City or whenever it was.
But the first half in that, it was quite stale. Well, it was an absolutely horrendous atmosphere. It's incredible that City are chasing for the treble. Sorry, this is very segue, but it's just hilarious that you watched them very close to a historic moment in English football, what they're achieving. Haaland's just about to break the English football goal-scoring record, Premier League goal-scoring record, and the atmosphere is as dead as, well, like a British library, basically. It's incredible.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in the British Library when I was writing a book.
It's dead, isn't it?
Which I didn't finish.
It's also got
very quiet. Yeah.
It's also got the Magna Carta in there, but then like it's the most underwhelming thing I've ever seen. Like, but you see it and it's like, oh yeah, it burnt in a fire like 400 years ago, so you can't actually see anything on it. It's just a blank sheet of paper.
Interestingly, it does say on the Magna Carta that City fans shall not fill the stadium. Well, I'm being. They're increasing the Etihad. They're putting a hotel there, improving the training complex, which is already world class, increasing the size of the stadium to 61,000. They are attracting more fans. I think it's fair to say a lot of them are sort of international fans and tourists, which United have had for a long time.
Yeah, uni students as well. You can get a cheap ticket to go to a game.
Yeah, they do. They are good on pricing still. So it's historically they've just not had a big fan base, and it takes a while to build that. So, but they will be doing that because, as Jonathan Liu in The Guardian pointed out, they have a magnificent strategy. And absolutely nothing to do with the magnificent amount of money that's been poured in on behalf of their sport washing owners. So that's a different topic, I suppose. There's not much to talk about on the takeover front. Nothing's really happened, has it, since the weekend and the final bids last week? A lot of sort of speculation. I do think it's quite funny how we'll be buying this player and we'll be buying that player started to go around. And normally I'd be, a clickbaity websites just trying to fill column inches by linking Mbappe at Qatar-owned club with United, perhaps soon to be owned Qatar-owned club, but it went to enough different outlets that it seemed like a deliberate PR move on behalf of some very expensive PR firms that the Qataris have hired.
Well, I think what the most exciting thing about the Qatar takeover is that Richard Keys and Andy Gray will start being our fans. And that is like really exciting.
God.
Imagine the columns. Imagine the clips we'll see from beIN Sport.
Oh God, I just can't stand it. Hairy hands. It's horrible. Remember when we signed Mourinho and we got Duncan Castles along with him? Oh
wow, yeah, 2 for the price of 1.
It really was, yeah.
That was a watershed moment. That was beautiful. And I don't know if you saw Richard Keys and Andy Gray have turned on Messi as well, because Messi wants out of the Qatari dynasty, and
they're just. I mean, they are a propaganda outlet, right? So let's be clear about that. It is interesting. If you want the Qatari perspective on the potential takeover, just read Al Jazeera, because it's obviously the mouthpiece. It has a little more insight into what's going on than perhaps some Western media outlets, because they're obviously very close to the state, and this is a state bid. I'm going to say this every single pod just to make sure everyone is really clear about what this is actually and what's actually not. I was a little bit frustrated the other day when a really good, I'll name them because I don't want to be a dick, but Stretford Paddock did a piece on this Mbappe transfer strategy stuff, and I couldn't help myself but call it out on Twitter. They're really great guys. Howson, friend of the pod, Adam McCullough's been on the pod. They do fantastic stuff. So I didn't want it to be seen as a kind of dig at them. But it's more like this is the narrative that the Qataris want to shape, right? When you're talking about transfers or talking about stadium improvements, or you're talking about investing in West Manchester and Salford area and stuff like that, you're not talking about the Qataris rolling back migrant worker rights after the World Cup ended, or leaving the International Trade Union Federation, or sentencing political distance to lengthy sentences, or not paying migrant workers, and all of the stuff that really, really does matter. We're not talking about that, and there's a whole fucking point. And I was just frustrated that people got sucked into that. So, because it's the point.
Yeah. And it clearly works. Like the fact that our fans are already being weaponized in a lot of respects as well. That
the Qatari flag shakers on Twitter all over the place. And I can't help myself, but like I have to push back against this, and I can't I don't want to speak for you, Tom, but I have to say what's really going on. I'm fortunate I've spent a long time in the business world, so I understand the structure of corporate M&A and finance, and I've talked to quite a lot of people now. I think it's 5 or 6 NGO leaders who are on the ground, some on air, some off air, who have a really clear picture about what's going on in the country, what are their strategies, how they're going to weaponize fans, why they're using football as a crutch to get into both sporting institutions and political institutions, and how fans are being manipulated and the media are being manipulated. And unfortunately, like, that story is not being told in very many places.
Yeah, I guess to a large section of the fan base, people just don't care. I think it's that's just
they see it as fast route to success, free money.
Yeah, and I kind of get it in some respects. Like, I don't agree with it, but I can understand if the biggest thing in your life is Man United, and it is for most of us. Like we absolutely adore the club, and pretty much all our day, well, not all our day, but most of our day, we're looking at United news, we're looking at transfer news, we're thinking about the game that's coming up tonight, we're reading and taking in the
takes up a lot of space in my brain.
Exactly, yeah. And I can see why people want the success back, and I can see why some people, I guess, go through their life not caring about these things. But I think I can understand it, but that is a huge problem. Like, it's almost like people, it's like general life in England. Like, it's almost like symptomatic of a morally bankrupt society, really. Like, in the same way as like Tory voters go through their day not caring about poor people, I feel like this, in a way, is the same kind of ignorance. And I guess it's not really ignorance; it's
compartmentalization, right?
Yeah, exactly. That people are just compartmentalizing and saying that my football club is more important than what is happening in the world, and migrant rights, and the way that a state is trying to instill have like political sway over our country as well, like in a lot of respects.
Yeah,
like the way that they're trying to change institutions in within our country, like the same way as like Russia have done in previous respects, and the way Abu Dhabi have done in Manchester previously. Yeah,
I didn't do a recorded conversation, but I had a conversation with some people at United Against Sport Washing this week. And since we haven't decided to record it yet, I probably have someone on the pod. I won't name the person involved, but what they said was that they are having a lot of trouble getting political pressure going, because no one in the Manchester City Council wants to say anything about this, because they see money coming in from Abu Dhabi as a net positive, and the potential for Qatar to do the same as a net positive. Now, there are downstream impacts. Clearly, there have been massive downstream impacts on rent prices, for example, in Manchester, and that has an impact on real working people and their lives. Massive impact. I know someone who's having to move out because their rent's gone up. And this is like, it's serious, but there is no political route to pressure here, basically. The UK government is currently an ally of Qatar. We need their liquid natural gas. It's not coming from anywhere else. It's really strategically important. So for now, and the problem is that changes, right? When you lock yourself into a geopolitical position, as the Premier League have done with their new directors' tests being based on sanctions lists, and what will happen if United become owned by Qatar is, if the winds of change come through, and I don't know, say Saudi Arabia decides to blockade Qatar again, which honestly, it's not that far away if you listen to some real experts on the region. And then, like, who's the more important partner at that point? You're on a fucking knife's edge, I tell you. And people aren't thinking about that kind of thing. And that's really important. The human rights are really important, obviously, because, like, how many dead migrant workers is it worth to kick a football around the pitch? You know, don't want to sound flippant, but you really got to compartmentalize, say you don't care about it. And then finally, we spent the last 15 years saying that Manchester City are sport washing, and we're all going to be massive hypocrites about that. Clearly.
It's hard to even think about personally. I find it, I don't really know what I'll do if Qatar take over. I don't particularly want to support the football club, to be honest, if that is the case. I mean, I will, because I'm a United addict and have been since my dad brainwashed.
We're all addicted, aren't we?
My dad brainwashed me into supporting United from about the age of 18 months old. I've been along for the ride, and I'm sure I will end up supporting United next season if Qatar take over. But I find that really, really difficult to square inside myself, and it's so frustrating to watch and see nothing happening in terms of pressure from the fan base, pressure from, like you say, political groups or politicians, or anybody. And you see, like, the 1958 statements and what the words that they've said about it, and you think if anyone's going to stand up to them who have any kind of, I don't think they have massive sway, but if they do have some kind of sway, and if anyone was going to generate some kind of fervour from the fan base, they could do it, and they don't give a shit.
No. I think Scott from Republican Mancunia was on the march. Obviously, I wasn't. And he said he didn't sense any sort of pro-Qatari feel from it. You could kind of infer that, because they have said, well, full sale only. There's only one option for that on the table in the bidding process. So that might say something. And they've been critical. They put out a tweet that said, if you're in bed with a Glazer, you are a Glazer, or something like that. Right? Like, clearly inferring that if the Ineos bid includes some kind of equity arrangement with the Glazer family, that they're just as bad. Right? I happen to think that's not true, because I think Ineos would structure it to have control, and the Glazers would not be in control and not have any kind of executive presence. But that's a kind of different discussion, I think. But you could infer from the statements that the 1958 put out and some of their tweets that like, they're just not saying the quiet part out loud, which is they'd be happy with the Qatari takeover. I'm not saying that that's what they're saying, but you could infer that. There's been no clarification.
They were asked questions specifically on Qatar and the United We Stand interview that they had, and their answers were awful. Like, to put it simply, and I know, like, people are going to be listening to this probably shouting at me like, "Oh, blah blah blah." Like, what right have you got to have a go at them? But I am like, they should be as equally against the Glazers as they should be Qatar, at least. Like, for me, like, obviously I hate the Glazers and everything they've done, but, like, Qatar taking over is so much worse. So much worse. Yeah, I was in touch with Matt Ford, who's on the United We Stand podcast, writes for UWS, and I think he articulated this really well. I mean, if you don't listen to the UWS podcast, it's typically sort of after the game, Andy Misson interviewing a few people sort of in situ live. It's got that feel to it. It has a real connection with the fans. And anyway, he was very good at articulating his reasons why he thinks it's so bad. And I was listening to that feeling like I agreed with every point, but I think one of the really important points about that is not only is it better the devil you know with the Glazer family, but, you know, the idea that a sport washing or manipulative, abusive, autocratic regime could somehow be better than some shitty businessman. Really, you got to look in the mirror and ask some really hard fucking questions if that's the conclusion you come to. And unfortunately,
I mean, I'll definitely get pushback. I got pushback this week when I put out my newsletter. It goes to like 5,000 people. I got some, typically people come back saying I'm Islamophobic because I'm pushing back against Qatar. Or by the way, about 75% of the migrants who are absolutely fucked over by this regime are Muslim.
Yeah.
It's the people I care about here. It's not about the religion or where the potential takeover. I've got nothing against Qatari people either. It's the regime. This is an abusive autocratic monarchy that couldn't give a shit about minorities or the migrants they exploit. So, and if you just don't care about that, fine. But this is probably not the podcast for you.
Yeah, it is true. And we all want United to succeed, don't we? Like, let's get it right. We all want United to succeed, but like,
really,
to be very cliche,
invested so much of my life in this fucking club.
To be really cliche, at what cost? Like, at what cost do you want to see United succeed? And I don't, and I'm sure loads of people listening to this don't want to see it. The cost to be what it potentially, well, it looks very likely that it will be, that regime take us over and use us as a tool.
Yeah, well, we are the tool in that case, right? Not just the club, we the fans, and we've seen it over and over again.
Yeah, we the fans, yeah. And especially if we don't say anything and we become little puppets for them on Twitter, and we're having a go at people like you who are then literally the people who are replying to you literally are the tool already, even before they've already taken over. Well,
you can see that, right? So, I mean, I had someone in particular on Twitter say, "Hey, why don't you just take a rest?" Especially, I mean, two things I put out: the some new research and then the comment on the Stretford Pallet video, right? And people saying, "Take a rest." They've talked about this, and that's not the point. You have to say it in every single time you talk about how brilliant Manchester City are and the wonderful vision, and don't mention the context behind it. You are part of the sport washing, right? That is the strategy, guys, right? So this is why I mention it every single week on this pod. This is why it's so important, right? Because when you're doing that, you're not talking about the abusive relationship with migrant workers or gay people or women back in Qatar. Right, look at what they do at home, not what they do abroad. It's the same with PSG, by the way. They have Neymar with a rainbow flag on his shirt or whatever, right? Hey, look, we're all inclusive. We're a progressive society. Well, back home, people have been stuck in prison for being gay. So look at what they do, not what they say. If you don't do that, you're part of the fucking product. And like you, I don't know what I'll do if this takeover happens. I don't know whether I'm a fan anymore or not, really, honestly. And I've devoted 40 plus years of my life to being a fan. I mean, they say men think about sex every 30 seconds. I think about United every 30 seconds. That's how sad I am. I'm waiting for the next game.
Yeah.
I'm reading the next piece of content. I'm on Twitter all the time. It's an absolute addiction. There's something wrong with me, clearly, but we've all got the same problem. You know? And if we don't have it, there'll be some unpleasant withdrawal. Or I can push back, right? And I can use this platform that's been built sort of over the years to push back. But I know I'm howling into the wind. And I know it's really frustrating because I get idiots like the same pushback every time. Oh, you're Islamophobic. Oh, look at what the UK government does. Will you be talking about the 2026 World Cup? You wouldn't do this if there were white people. Like, you know, and it's easy to kind of counter those, but it's exhausting already.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good rant, wasn't it?
It's exhausting because it's not even a debate between like right and wrong. It literally is just right or wrong. Like there's no debate to be had there. I think that's why it's so exhausting when the argument coming back is so simplistic or just plain wrong. It's impossible to have an argument like that. It's not a debate. It's not like you're just there and you've got a different opinion on which person could take over the club because they might succeed in this particular way or they might put more money in or they might be strategically better with the way that they run the club. it's just a decision of right or wrong, and that's what's so deeply frustrating about this whole process, and the way that people kick back on it as well. It's just like, it's the same way as I look at like British politics as well. Like when I almost have like a debate about people voting for Tory, like it's like the same thing, but exacerbated a million times, because also people get so much more ferocious when it comes to football. Like people are ferocious in politics, but in football, it goes up an emotional notch or 5.
It does, yeah. All right, I think we better leave it there. United will beat West Ham at the weekend, no problem. I think, touch wood. It's a podcast, so yeah, you can't see me touching my head. But anyway, fingers crossed for that one. It's 5 games to go, folks. 9 points. Doable, right? It's doable.
Yeah, in the place I'm in right now, an hour after seeing Luke Shaw handle the ball away from Lewis Dunk's head, I am very pessimistic about Sunday. And I think this whole chat has been a reflection of my mood following that penalty. So apologies for my pessimism and negativity throughout this whole show. But yeah, we'll beat West Ham on Sunday. They won't be up for it.
All right. Come on, you Reds.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.